Hey everyone, this is our beginner video on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Today we're going to go through our written instructions. If you scroll down to the description section, you can go to download the written instructions that we have on our website, teachkidsengineering.com. And I encourage you to print those out before you get started because it's nice to have them handy, because we are going to learn a few sequences that you have to memorize, and it's just nice to have them printed out next to you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when you have a Rubik's Cube, there's a certain notation that we use to give instructions on how to solve it, and what we use is letters. And so the letter U, for example, means to rotate the top of the cube clockwise. So if we see the letter U, we know that that's a U move. So it's just clockwise 90 degrees, so every time we see U. And sometimes we'll see a U prime, which is the opposite. It's moving U counterclockwise. So that's a U prime move. R means rotate the right side clockwise, and R prime counterclockwise. L, left side clockwise. L prime is counterclockwise. Then we have F, which is the front of the cube. F prime. D is bottom of the cube clockwise. D prime, and then B is back of the cube, and then B prime. And so you're going to see a lot of U and R prime moves mostly, but this is a notation that it takes some getting used to, but any Rubik's Cube instruction that you see, and even as you get more advanced, is going to use this notation. So let's go ahead and mix up the cube, and we'll get started with step one. Step one is called build the white cross. And so the first thing you'll notice about a Rubik's Cube is that each of the center pieces don't move. We have the green piece that everything just rotates around it, but it's never going to go anywhere. And so every piece is going to stay the same relative to where it is. And we start by building a white cross. Now, why do we start with the white side? That's just common tradition, as we always teach the white cross first. But I will tell you that advanced cubers learn to become colorblind, where they will learn, for example, if they can build the red cross faster, they might start with that and then build up from there. But we're going to do the traditional thing, and we're going to go with the white cross. And the first thing is we're looking for all the white edge pieces, and we want it to be between the white center and its color. So for example, this white and green piece, sometimes it's very easy, and you can see that this one just moves right into place. Let's look for another one. Sometimes if they're on the bottom, that's actually very easy too, because we can rotate it to its color and then rotate it up to the white layer. Now let's look for another one. We have a couple pieces here that are backwards, so we want to get them out of the top layer. So we can just turn them down, and now this one is in the blue with its blue pair, so we could just turn it up into the white layer. And now we have one left, and if we rotate the top layer away from its natural point and put it up, then we can rotate it back. In building the white cross, there's not really specific instructions. It does take some intuition, some getting to know the cube, and so it's good to just mix it up and do it a few times. And if you ever see cubing competitions, the person takes a look at the mixed up cube, and they have a certain amount of time to study it. And the first thing they're studying is how are they going to build the white cross. So even for very advanced cubers, that's an important first step. They might be thinking even a little ahead of that, but I think building the white cross itself is a skill that takes a long time to get very fast at. So let's look. Here we have a white piece already in the top. We just need to rotate it to its proper color. Here we also have another one that's pretty easy to get in the right place. Now we have a orange one on the bottom. Let's rotate it until it's matching its orange color, and then we'll turn it up into the white layer. And then we have one that's a little harder because as we turn this into the top layer, it's backwards. So we can turn it part of the way out, and like I showed before, we can move this just temporarily in order to put it in place and then move it back. Now all of the white pieces are matching their center colors, and so we have the white cross, and that's step 1. Now before we move on to step 2, one other thing to think about as you start practicing and getting better at this is eventually you'll want to learn to solve the white cross at the bottom, because quickly you're going to be working your way up to the second layer and then solving the top layer, and it's just more efficient to have the top layer facing you. And so it's a little bit harder, you won't be able to see it as easily what you're doing, but it is a skill to start thinking about for your next steps. Now step 2 is the white corners. The white corners are these pieces here, these 4 pieces that we're looking for. They're the 4 corner pieces with a white sticker. We have one here, one here, one here, and one here. And we want for example, we want the orange and blue sticker to go between the orange and blue center pieces, so we would want that piece to go right here. And so we're going to look for each of those pieces, and I'm going to show you a picture from our written instructions up above. But for example, here we have the green and red piece, and we're going to turn that until it's between the green and red layers where we want it to go. And I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this. The way I first learned this was, in order to move this here, we're going to push one of our white cross pieces out of the way. In order to avoid that, we can move these 2 layers temporarily to the side, move this up, and then move this back. And now our piece is in place. And to me, that's the way that just made the most sense intuitively, but I'll show you the way that many other guides will explain it, and that's a formula, and it's R prime, D prime, RD. And if you do this formula a certain number of times, it's going to end up in the right place. So let's do R prime, D prime, R, D. It's in the right place, but it's not in the right configuration yet. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. Once again, not in the right configuration yet. Prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R. So eventually it will always get into the right configuration if you do that sequence enough times. And as you get faster at that, it might be the fastest way for you at first. So let's look for another one. We have the red and blue. Let's rotate it until it's between the red and blue layers, and it's going to go up here. So we can either do it the first way, which is to move these 2 out of the way, put it in place, or we could have done the R prime, D prime, RD multiple times. This is the orange and green. It's going to go between these 2 layers. I'll do it the faster way, the easier way. So we moved the piece we didn't want to affect, the back 2 layers, out of the way and just moved it up into place. And then finally we have this one here, and we'll do this one, the R prime, D prime, RD method. Okay, so now we have our white corners, and that is step 2. Okay, so now that we have the whole top layer complete, we're ready to do step 3, which is the middle layer. And this is, at this point, this is where we turn the cube upside down, and we'll be looking at the top yellow layer. So if you notice, the middle layer is comprised of 4 center pieces, which cannot move, and 4 edge pieces. And so we'll be looking for these 4 edge pieces to move them into their proper position. So we'll start by looking at the top layer, and if we see one of these edge pieces, we line it up with its center color. In this case, we already have one lined up, and we're either going to rotate it to the left or to the right to match with its proper colors. And so in this case, we want to rotate the piece to the right, and we have a formula for rotating to the left and a formula for rotating to the right. So the formula for rotating to the right is U R U prime R prime U prime F prime U F. So now we have this piece in its proper position. Now let's go ahead and find another one. We have the blue and orange. So any piece that doesn't have yellow at this point is what we're looking for. There's 4 pieces. Everything with yellow belongs in the top layer. Anything without yellow belongs in the middle layer. So this one we want to rotate to the left. The formula for rotating to the left is U prime L prime U L. Now I'm just going to pause in the middle of the formula. I want you to notice that here's our corner piece and here's our edge piece, and they're nicely paired together. And this formula is kind of a little bit inefficient. We took the corner piece out of its position in order to put it with the edge piece. And I want you to just think about that for a minute, because I'll explain why later, but as you learn to get better at cubing and faster, there's a method where we don't do the corners first. We go ahead and do these together, and that's what most of the fast cubers use. The people who can solve the Rubik's Cube in under a minute, they're using this method called CFOP, where they're pairing pieces together, and rather than going to do the corners and going a step backwards, they're going ahead and doing this. So let's go ahead and finish the formula. So it's U F U prime F prime. So we put these two pieces, this piece into its place. Now we have a green and red. It's already lined up, and we want to rotate this one to the left. So that's U prime L prime U L U F U prime F prime. And now we have one piece remaining, and it's already in position, but it's backwards. And so what we're going to do to get it out is we're going to rotate this piece into place using the same formula, and that's going to put it out on the top layer, and then we'll be able to do one of the formulas. So now we just did the formula to rotate that left, and now we can find our piece and then do the same thing. So once again, that's U prime L prime U L U F U prime F prime. And that's step 3, and that's our middle layer. Now that we're at the final layer, this layer is less about intuition and all about formulas. The first thing we want to do on the top layer is make the yellow cross. And you'll have 3 situations after you finish the middle layer. One situation is you'll have these 3 pieces solved, and that's kind of part of the yellow cross. In other situations, you might have a straight yellow line. You know, it could be going this way, but you'll have just a straight yellow line, and you can rotate it any way you want. Or you might have neither of these. You might just have the center yellow piece. There's 3 formulas for the 3 different situations. And in this situation, since we have this, our formula is F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. And now we have the yellow cross. So let's take it back to here. But here's another situation we can have. We could have the straight yellow line, and it's a very similar formula. Instead of FUR, it's FRU, R prime, U prime, F prime, and now we have the yellow cross. So that's step 4. That's building the yellow cross on the top. Okay, now step 5 is to make all the corners yellow now that we have the yellow cross. So we want to see yellow here, here, and here. And there's only one formula you need to know. And as you get faster and faster, you might want to memorize a few more. So for the one formula you do need to know is RU, R prime U, R U U R. And if you see the cube either in this kind of bow tie shape or this arrow shape, you want the arrow pointing down to the bottom left corner. Ideally, if you see a yellow square here, you're just going to have to do this formula one time, but you might have to do it 1, 2, or 3 times. So there's 2 different images that I'm going to put above this, and you want to hold the cube as one of those 2 images. And let's do the formula. R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R prime. And now we see we have the arrow pointing down with the yellow corner, so we know we only have to do it one more time. R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R prime, and now we have all 4 of the yellow corners. For step 6, we want to orient all the yellow corners into the right location. Sometimes we'll have 2 corners in the right location, and we need to swap 2 corners in order to have all 4 corners in the right location. That's the most common condition at this point. If you have no matching corners, then there's a second formula that we'll use. And so I'll go ahead and go through both of those. So the first one is, we're going to swap this one. And our formula is R prime F, R prime, B2, R, F prime, R prime, B2, and then R2. And so now all 4 corners are matching each other. We just need to orient them into the right spots, and we have those matched. And I'll go ahead and go through the second situation as well. So I'll go ahead and set it to where we have no matching corners. And in this situation, we'd want to go through this formula. F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F. And I'll be honest with you, most people don't memorize that second formula. What you can do is the first one's much easier, and you can do that twice. If you have no matching corners, you can go ahead and swap 2, and then you will have a match, and then you can swap the other 2. So you'll have to go through that iteration twice. I will say this though, that second formula is a staple formula that we use in our blindfold solving video. So if you ever want to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, that actually is a very good formula to learn. And that's the formula you'll use to do all of your corner swapping when you're doing the blindfolded solve. Now we're on step 7, which is our final step. The final step is we want to orient our yellow edges. So all of the yellow edges are facing up since we made the yellow cross, but we need to put the yellow edges into the right position. If you have one piece that's in the right position, then we'll hold that piece to the back, and we'll do one of 2 formulas. One formula is to rotate these 3 pieces clockwise, and in that case that's what we want. We want the green to go here, the blue to go here, and the orange to come here. And then there's a second formula to do the same thing counterclockwise. So let's do it clockwise since that's our case. So it'll be F2 U L R prime F2 L prime R U and then F2. And that's the last step, and we have a solved Rubik's Cube. Now that you've learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube, I encourage you to go through this a few times. Print out the instructions so you can memorize the formulas more easily. And the next step is to learn the fast method. So the next thing you want to look up is CFOP or F2L. I'll give some links below. But thank you for watching and happy cubing. Don't forget to subscribe.